Welcome back to the channel and to another video on the barn build conversion. Not really sure what to call it, to be honest, but we're converting this old barn into car storage. So I think it used to have sheep and stuff in it, but it had a dirt floor, and we're just going to convert it into storage for all the car projects. So at the end of the last video, we got the shuttering in, got the concrete poured, and that took far longer than expected, but it's done now, and I can't tell you how pleased I am to get that bit out of the way, because it's the one job I was really dreading. But that's done, so we'll get the shuttering taken off and see how that looks. The channel's doing quite well. We're very, very close to that first 1,000 subscribers now. And would really appreciate it if you just remember to hit the like and subscribe button. It makes all the difference to the channel, it really does. So that being said, we'll just get on and make a start. So we're gonna get the shuttering done, then we're gonna level out the rest of this floor and get it ready for the floor covering. Okay, so it's the following day and this has gone off nicely. The finish isn't the best, but it's fine for what we need. And we'll get this shuttering off and see what we got underneath it. So the reason for the orange paint is I just marked where I put the screws in. It would just make it easier to find them after all the concrete. So it just makes life a bit easier. So they didn't come out too bad, all things considered. You did see me use that poker on the concrete, just trying to get it to flow into all the areas it needed. Now, I've never used one before, and I was a bit paranoid. I've read all sorts of things about it. If you overuse it, then all the aggregates sort of sink to the bottom in the concrete, and obviously I didn't want that. But I have got more voids in the concrete than I expected, but the concrete itself is pretty solid. This piece here is where it got damaged, where I was taking the forms off, so not too worried about that. This bit is all filled in now, so it's only a little piece that's sort of missing. I'm not really worried about that now. Most of this will get covered over as well, because obviously I don't want to damage any of the car doors or anything, so I'll probably cover that in wood just so it's a little bit softer rather than concrete. Moving over to the other side, I'll talk about this middle bit in a second. This end was pretty much the same. This basically got damaged where I was taking the forms off. There's another one over there. But the concrete itself is really, really good, really solid. Very, very happy with it. So what happened in the middle here, I think, is I started this end, filled that up When I got to about here, I realized I wasn't going to have enough materials and I needed to go out before all the shops shut to get them. So went out with the trailer, picked up another bag of aggregates and bits and pieces. And then when I came back, I started from that end and I worked it back here. Now, obviously, there's a few hours passed before I did this. And this has obviously already started to set slightly. So I think what's happened, because it's started to set, it hasn't actually filled the void as much as it should. But there's plenty of concrete in here. It's going to be more than strong enough. You can just see that there. That's like an old, well, just a piece of block that I had lying around, so I chucked it in. But there is only a few of those in this wall. It is absolutely solid. So overall, really happy with it. This piece here, you're not going to see, that is actually going to be underneath the floor. So, and there's still like 16 inches of concrete there. It's more than enough. So the next job now is going to be to level out the floor, and I will have to tidy up this corner. But we'll get the digger going and just dig the floor out for a second. So you may have seen these pallets in the background, and some of you may have already guessed that I'm going to be using this block paving as the floor for the garage. Now, the reason for that is this will be a lot easier for me to do on my own. If I'm going to concrete the floor, I need to get bodies in here. We need a lot of labor to get that done. Whereas this, I can actually get done on my own. So these blocks are 80 millimeters thick, and obviously they need to be on a bed of sand. So we need to subtract that from the floor level. So in this point in the build, I had to take a slight pause and swap out the engine in the Audi. I've let it gone bang. Now this Seat Leon had exactly the same engine, so I removed the engine out the Leon, removed the engine out the Audi. Obviously had the two engines side by side. Put the engine back in the Audi, and then realised the clutch was slipping. Had to take the gearbox back out, change the clutch, put it all back together. Now, I did consider filming this, but I didn't really have enough time. I just needed to get this done so that I could carry on with the garage build. So the final floor level, we want to roughly end up where that orange mark is. Now, this piece here isn't completely level. I mean, there's a 10 mil difference even between there and there. So it's not 100% and it's not set in stone, but that's where we want to roughly end up. So to get this, what I've done is set the laser up over there on a few blocks. And it's showing just a horizontal line. You can just about see that behind there, but when you look, you can see it. And what I'm going to do now is mark up a piece of batten as a reference for the rest of the barn. I'll show you what I'm going to do. So if I place this piece of batten on here, you can just about pick out this green line here. So this is where we want the finished floor level. So if I mark that, now the blocks are 80 millimeters and you want at least 20 mil sand to put them on. So that's another 100 mil. 4 inches. If I can get this tape measure table. So we want to be 80 mil for blocks, 20 mil at least for sand, and then obviously you need hardcore underneath it. So anything below that is fine. Obviously we're going up because we need to go down on the floor. So that's where we need the block level to be. And then that's where the sand level needs to be, because you're going to build up on top of that. Moving over to this far corner, we can use this stick then as a reference point. So the reason why I did this the way it is that actually puts us at the sand level. So when I do this floor here, build the hardcore up to there, and then add sand on top of it. And that will give us the blocks. So the blocks and the sand will go on there, which means there's only actually 6 inches of this step sticking out of the ground, which isn't too bad. So coming over to the floor, you can see there that bit there is actually already quite low. I mean, you've got a couple of inches, you need to dig that a little bit and then add some hardcore. Again, this isn't a driveway, this isn't going to have an awful lot of use. It will just have cars sitting on it most of the time. And it's already very compacted. It's not going to have rain on it, so I'm not too worried about filling this up with like inches and inches of hardcore, because it just doesn't need it. But I will dig that a little bit out. But as you come over, if I get out of the way of the laser, But as you come over, you can see then that the floor is slightly higher here, and in fact that's already too high by the time we add sand, and there's no hardcore really under that, that's all dirt. So this area here needs scraping back, and then I can use this stick basically to tell me how much I need to take off all over the floor. So we'll get in the digger now and start scraping this back a bit. That short time lapse that you just saw was a few hours work. For some reason I'd left the settings on automatic and it just made a very short clip out of what was a good few hours. But I think you could basically see what I was doing. I used the digger just to scrape off the high points. We used that stick that we made to determine where the high points were and get it roughly level. Scraped all the soil back into a pile there. Used some of that to fill in the gap along the wall. Compacted that down. We went round with the whacker plate and just got that all sorted out, and then started using the digger to bring in some of this shale that was up against the wall. So brought in a few barrows of that and spread it around. Now you've got about 2.5 to 3 inches over in this side. It's going to be a lot thicker over by the door. It's going to be 6 to 7 inches over there in places, and I know people are going to say that's not enough hardcore for what I'm doing, but this is indoors. This is not outside. It's not going to be rained on. This is literally just to store cars. Cars are just going to be parked on it. Over time, it may sink, but realistically, this ground is already very compacted. And if it does sink over time, I can just lift the blocks back up, throw some more sand in, and re-level it. It's not really going to be an issue. There's no real traffic as such in here. So I'm fairly confident that this will be more than enough for what we need. So I'm going to level out the rest of this garage as best I can, and I'll bring you in once we've got the hardcore in. It'll be something else to see. So at this point, our daughter had popped down for the weekend as it was my wife's birthday and we were all going out for a meal together. But as ever, she was very keen to lend a hand, so we made a start on levelling out the stone and getting it all compacted. So I used the digger to level out the big pile of stone that was in the barn, and then tried to grade it out with the whacker plate, but it soon became apparent that it really wasn't up to the job. So I went and hired the trench rammer. Now the trench rammer compacts stuff a lot more, but it also helps by breaking up the stones into smaller pieces. Unfortunately, this one wasn't running very well, and as it was the weekend, I wasn't able to take it back until Monday morning. So after the weekend, I took the faulty whacker plate back to the hire shop, and in fairness, they were very good about it. They did fortunately have a replacement there, and they let me keep it for the week, which was really good of them. Once I got it back home, I then proceeded to just go up and down the floor several times, and this one ran really well. So we just continuously went up and down over the floor, breaking the stones up and compacting the floor. This allowed us to put a lot more hardcore into the actual base of the floor. Once I'd gone over it several times, I then used the whacker plate to help grade it and smooth the actual floor out, and then get rid of any high spots. This did take a while, but it was well worth doing, and the result was really good. So after all the initial problems that I had, I'm really glad I decided to hire out this trench rammer because it's made all the difference. As much as the plate compactor is a good machine, it's ideal for doing a lot of jobs and it's really good for smoothing out stuff. The trench rammer just compacts stuff so much more. It's so much more violent, basically. It's smashed a lot of the stones up into smaller, more manageable bits. Some of these stones were far too big and we couldn't really level them out. So I'm really glad I decided to do that. So I've gone over the whole garage now and none of this stone is higher than it needs to be. Most of it is lower. There's some higher areas than others, but I mean, we can just add more stone now. So that's going to be the next job. First thing I'm going to do is just get rid of all the bits and pieces out of the garage, get rid of all that wood, the cement mixer, the wheelbarrows, bits and pieces. Anything I don't need in here will have to go out. And then I'm just going to start barrowing in some more of that shale and put it in all the low spots and get this garage as level as we can. Once that level has been reached, you can then start looking to get the final grade with probably stone dust or sharp sand. So first thing to do is get rid of all this wood and then I'll start barrowing in some stone. So after a lot of to-ing and fro-ing between the whacker plate and the trench rammer, this is the result that we got. Obviously we used the laser to get it this level, and our new inspector's just coming to check on things. But this is ideal now. There's a lot more hardcore in here than I initially thought. The trench rammer actually made a really good job and totally recommend hiring one of those if you're doing anything like this. It compacted everything so much more than the whacker plate can. And when you ended up putting a lot more hardcore in here than I anticipated. But the result is really good. It's very, very strong, very hard, and absolutely ideal for what we need. So the next job now will be to get the sand and the blocks and get everything laid out and just get the floor in here. But that is going to be in the next video now. So I really do appreciate everybody watching, and again, if you can, hit the like button, subscribe. It really does make a difference, and I will see you again shortly on the next one. Thanks for watching.